This conference will now be recorded.
Going into that other.
Oh, right, I mean, that's proper, that's proper, right, right.
Oh, I didn't see him up there. Thank you.
Are we missing somebody?
Me.
Yeah, okay. Hey, did you hear? I didn't. Okay.
Was Connie here last month?
I think so.
Yeah, she was sitting next to me.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we should change that.
Yeah.
on the minute.
I was not here last
Right.
month. I was COVID. And we
Yes.
Oh, really?
Sick last month, yep.
All right,
That's Connie's last name.
we're ready to roll, right, Kurt?
Ready to go.
All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. We have an agenda in front of us. There might be one change, right, Kurt?
Yeah, I'm gonna give the annual report at our next meeting rather than this one, because I've got a girls' basketball game tonight to get to, so.
Yep.
Sorry.
Um,
So that's 6A.
Change, is there a motion to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, carried. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 0, 0. Approval of the January 19th, 2024 minutes.
The attendance note that change.
So Kim was absent.
I was absent.
Okay.
And Connie was here.
Okay.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes.
Amended, second.
As amended. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, carried, 6, 0, 0. And it's 5:35, so we have a public hearing at 4A, variance regarding 109 Sugarloaf. Any background there, Kurt?
Nothing different than what we've said before. You can see on the memorandum earlier about the shed located within the 5-foot variance has been there, it's misspelled, has been there for a while. Mr. Nelson received guidance from Dan King, who stated that he did not need a permit. Mr. Nelson has said he did not know where the lot line is. He does now, and the shed is currently touching the lot line, so it's in the setback. And the only thing I've heard about it, I've got a letter from the neighbor, Cindy Arndt, and she is, they're not able to attend tonight, but they do not have any issue with the above variance request that.
Where aren't they, aren't the ones to the north of that?
I think they're to the southeast,
Okay,
a couple of them down.
the other house pictured.
Yeah, I don't think they're in this picture. I think they're 2 houses down from that.
How close is he to the lot line on the, where that windbreak is on the north side there? Is that within 5 feet?
With the trees there?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's on his lot line.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to put trees and fences up to your.
right,
lot.
no, but I say, is the shed too close to that lot line also, as well as the back?
No, I don't believe so. I
Okay.
think it's just the back.
I'll open up the public hearing. Don't see any public comment. I'll close the public hearing. And so we have to go through the requirements for the variance. I guess I just had a couple of questions before we get into that. So it said, I thought the setback was 5 feet and encroached 2 feet into the 5-foot setback.
Correct. Oh, I'm sorry. So you can see on his map here. it encroaches into the variance. I think he has 2 feet left, from what I've heard, from his garage to the actual lot line. So it'd be approaching 3 feet. Yes.
There was a statement that the shed is currently touching the lot line. That might not be true.
That's not true. Yeah, you can see, and you can see there, there's a foot or two.
Every real estate map that I've looked at with this, it shows that the edge of the garage is just over the lot line.
Yeah, you can't rely on those GIS maps though.
No.
You gotta have a surveyor out there.
Who owns, is it the city that owns the land out here then, on
Yeah,
this
it's
side?
parkland there.
Part of the park.
So this one is correct on this map.
No, I wouldn't say it is because that white line is the county overlay and,
The
I
county
think
GIS
they've
is not
got-
100% accurate.
yeah, I think it's gotten a little bit more accurate over the years. I know like 10 years ago when they first did this, they were showing encroachments all over the county.
My lot is way off, so.
Yeah, they're off, so you can't rely on that. But, that was one question, is it at lot line or not? But I know that these are platted lots, so you can find the pins and pretty much know where the line is. But that was one question I had. And then, yeah, that was the other question is the variance just on the rear lot line, or do we have to worry about the side as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then why is this being addressed? What will, my question was happen?
It's like an after the fact variance. So history here is the Nelson property and then some of the other land more to the south, heading towards the main park, that border on the park. It's been a problem that subdivision to the south was platted back in like the 70s, the swimming pool edition. And then this, where Nelson is, was done a little bit later. But Kirk could tell you a little bit more about it. But all those properties, everybody's kind of had this history of creeping up and crossing into the parkland. The park board finally said, we got to do something about this.
Yeah. I was on park board when we brought that up and there's some sheds that totally sit on parkland.
Yeah.
And some people stored some of their stuff definitely on parkland, like I think Nelson did, and he's moved it all off, right? And some of the other owners to the south, same thing. I think there's one shed or garage that actually did cross the line.
Yeah.
And we entered into an encroachment agreement that says, all right, we're not going to make you move it, but if it ever burns or becomes dilapidated, now you got to comply with setbacks. This one, maybe we could have done an encroachment agreement too, but the thought was it's not crossing the line. So maybe just go the route of variance and allow it, an after the fact variance because of the history, I guess. Yeah. And I'm not gonna take Nelson's word for it on what City Hall told him because everybody has revisionist history, right? So, but I would imagine at some point when this started becoming an issue, people were getting worried about it. Maybe Dan King, the zoning administrator back then, might have told Charlie, don't worry about it, we'll deal with it. And but I'm just speculating.
So are there two aspects though to the variance? Because the shed's larger than the designated size and its location? Are both of those issues?
Is the shed bigger than it should be?
The size of the shed is,
If it was less than 128, we wouldn't worry about it.
regulations.
We wouldn't be worrying about it.
because the yard is so, it's a large lot
Okay.
and there's only 2 sheds.
Well, wasn't there a building?
It says the shed is larger than 128 square feet, therefore a variance is needed. So
But if you have probably that variance and then it'd be too close to the line. Are there
so it's two issues. Is it two issues? Is it
Because
the
when
size and a location?
When we had talked about that other one out there, we had said we changed it so if it was less than 128 square feet, it didn't need a permit.
Yeah, you don't need a building permit for smaller sheds.
Right.
So I don't know if
Does that,
this Nelson shed, when was it built, do we know? Okay.
And how big is this shed? I think we talked about that in big.
It just says it's larger than
Not that big.
128.
Yeah. The size, because, I mean, I don't know, do we need to see if he needs a building, is that building permit for the shed? Is that what we're asking? 'Cause I think it's
No.
over 128 square feet. It's a larger.
If there should have been one. The
Right.
question is there, probably nothing we can do about it now.
Yeah.
But it's a non-conforming structure.
So I think this variance is just on the location of the shed.
Just on the location. Okay.
I always kind of assumed that there was a building permit issued, but maybe there wasn't.
Is it movable? I don't
It's not
think
on
so.
Skids or anything, okay.
Brian said it's structure.
Yeah. Well, I just, not a big fan of allowing somebody to do something that maybe exceeded what they should have done, and then, the whole ask for forgiveness
Yeah.
later. But maybe considering the circumstances along all those properties and the way these people have dealt with parkland, maybe it's the best thing we can do.
so the reasons for the variance, I don't see any of them that really strongly apply in this case.
Yeah. I mean, for sure, whether you're applying for a permit or not, the burden's on the property owner to know where their lot lines are. I guess we're gonna have to try to come up with some facts, at least that it's adjacent to parkland and that there's sort of general confusion along
Yeah,
more than one property. And
right. And that's true.
deny the variance, then I guess it's a non-conforming structure and violation of the zoning ordinance, and then it becomes an enforcement action to make him move it. Which,
But if we go through the 5 findings of fact, it sets within those, doesn't it? Or
well,
can
we'd
you
have
go
to
through
come up
them and
with
then we
some
can-
facts to support it, and if we do, we'd recommend to council, and council, they'll question it, and if they approve it, then it's a done deal.
Can you go through those 5?
Yeah,
And
sure.
then we can talk about it?
So, under subdivision 12, there are practical difficulties in complying with the official control. Practical difficulties means that the property owner proposed to use the property in a reasonable manner, not permitted by an official control, so.
So that one's okay.
Yeah, he's using it in a reasonable manner. It complements the residential use of the house, I'm sure.
Right, but what practical difficulty if
Right.
you're starting from
Yeah.
scratch?
So if you look at the statutory, there's our ordinance and then there's state statute. State statute says practical difficulties means that the property owner proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner, not permitted by the ordinance. It's probably true here. The plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the permitted, the property not created by the landowner. Well, that, we're gonna have to grasp for some facts there.
No.
And the variance, if granted, will not alter the essential character of the locality.
Well, that's, yeah,
Again, a shed kind of
right,
creeping up on the back line probably isn't that big of an
especially when
issue,
it's wooded.
right? So it's that issue. Is it something that was caused by the property owner? And I guess the discussion would be, for some reason, that whole section, I don't know if it was a conspiracy against the park plan or what, but all these property owners creeping up into the park, I don't know why that happened. Anyway, so that's number one. I guess we can discuss that second point if there's any potential facts we could come up with to support the fact that the plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to the property and not created by the landowner.
You didn't know where the lot line was when you put the shed up.
That's his
Ignorance of
responsibility.
Excuse, yeah.
Not, no. I'd say you need to know where your property lines are. And not guess it based on what your neighbors are doing.
Right.
Maybe applicable, but that's, they all say and, not or.
Where?
The third, the variance granted would not alter the essential character of the locality, which it really wouldn't.
Right.
No, that
But
should be
that's
okay.
about the only thing.
Yeah, residential use,
Yeah.
shed in support of the residents. So 3 is probably fine. Number 2, we got to discuss that a little bit further. We could move on to number 4 and then come back to 2. The variance requested is the minimum variance that will alleviate the practical difficulty. The problem here, it's an after the fact thing. So
Right.
it is where it is.
It's
So-
a practical difficulty, but you move in the shed, but that's not really.
Right?
Yeah,
So it's a 3-foot encroachment into the setback. Well, we can come back to that one too. Number 5, variance would not be materially detrimental to the purpose of the ordinance or to the property in the same zone. Facts in support of that one?
it's so difficult because it's already there. I mean, it's not,
Right.
when you think of, like these 5 findings of fact, if they were, it was a big deal. It would be different, but this is really,
I mean, is
I
there?
think, not making a problem for anybody.
Is there an argument that, the unique lot shape there with the acute angle up there in the northwest corner might support it? I mean, he's got plenty of room though
Yeah,
to move that shed to the
Yeah.
east, doesn't he? If you would have come in advance before putting it there and asked for this variance, it
Yeah.
might have been denied.
And if Dan King hadn't told him that he did not need a permit, I mean, that might have solved it at the time too.
Do we know that for sure?
That's what he told me.
So he never did get a permit, that's for sure. Building permit. Okay.
And then he would have been told the rules, had he gotten it. If he didn't get it, he had false information.
Ignorance is no excuse, but I mean, I know the gentleman and I'm sure he would act in good faith, but what do you do?
Yeah, I guess we could, that could be in support of, I don't want to use City Hall as an excuse, but that could be support for 2 and 4 is that there was some misunderstanding between the property owner and City Hall. And now we're here asking for something after the fact due to maybe a misunderstanding or misinformation. I don't want to say misinformation, but
An apparent misunderstanding.
I mean, it's possible that the discussion was the size of the shed was in compliance and then it happened to be built a little bit bigger, right?
And supposedly he could build it back there because it's back amongst woods. And it won't be an issue. That's what he said on the phone. Won't be an issue for anybody, for the city, for years, until we actually look at it now.
Yeah, it isn't like it's upsetting the neighbor right behind,
Right.
anything like that.
The other properties along the park, you said that one, they had a shed that was on the park property, you did the agreement, but is there other ones that encroached on it, or
I think that was the only one.
was the only
wasn't it?
one?
Was there another one that actually they
I know
moved
the
it?
fence, I mean, the fence.
Landscaping.
Retaining wall on the park. So I know last year they had this survey and they had to go to each individual person's
Right.
house to tell them the good news, I guess. People weren't really happy about it, obviously, because it's been like that for a while.
So we didn't hear anything from the neighbor adjacent, just to the, I guess it'd be the north.
Yeah, the one neighbor we heard from, like this letter was, I think 2 houses southeast.
Okay, so like, yeah, 113,
Yeah.
the house closest to the shed, that's what I was just
Yeah.
curious if we heard anything.
Is that John Steve or Radke? Is it John Steve?
John Steve's on the other side.
Okay,
But the house pictured is ours.
okay.
And they were the only ones that you said made any comment.
Yeah, neighborhood approval or opposition is a factor, but not the determining factor. Certainly should be taken into consideration. Yeah, the fact that it's next to the park and the city doesn't foresee any type of immediate development on the other side probably is a factor.
And so you said if we approve it or whatever, it goes to council, they can approve it, then the variance is after the fact and it's in place and it's okay as is. If we deny it, then it's, you said like a non-conforming use or non-conforming location. And what happens after that?
Yeah, I guess it would be, city could look to
Enforce it.
and enforce it, move it, or do nothing. But then there's always a question, I don't know, does that create a title problem for
Right.
down the road?
For sale of the property, yep.
Usually in that case, like if it's a garage overhang or something like that, we would just say that it was encroaching on the neighbor's property. I mean, that would just be disclosed, so.
Yeah, and it would be up to the buyer to decide whether they'll buy it as
So
is
that
or
really
require.
won't be a big problem for him either if he goes to sell the property.
Well, the buyer or the buyer's lender might take issue with that title issue and say, well, this needs to be dealt with.
Well, they might. Yeah, they might, that's true. But a lot of times, we just say it's an encroachment. If you have that kind of buyer.
Sometimes it's the buyer's lender.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true.
I mean, overall, it's not objectionable, but we just have to at least try to justify it with facts, I guess.
Well, I would make a motion that we approve the variance after going through the findings of fact. And could we have a roll call vote on that when we vote?
Cite which ones, then we're gonna have to cite which ones were the reasons, aren't we?
Pardon?
Are we gonna have to cite the reasons?
I
so
think we need to firm up the rationale or
Yeah.
the supporting facts a little bit better. But, so could you hold that motion?
Sure.
So, number 2, plight of the landowner is due to circumstances unique to property not created by the landowner. Do we want to just kind of lay that on the doorstep of City Hall, there was miscommunication with City Hall?
Sure.
I think that's what it is.
I don't know for sure. Dan King isn't here. We got one version of events.
Mhm.
I'd prefer not to have that the sole reason. City Hall and the fact that, I don't know.
Well, it's not gonna alter the essential character of the locale. I mean, that's,
I'm still on number 2, I'm
oh,
sorry.
okay. I'm sorry.
Not created by the landowner. I guess just trying to justify it that other properties
Adjacent properties or,
were in the same predicament. I don't know if that really is a supporting fact, but I guess we can try it.
What was the one you said, Matt, that you just said?
That other property owners next to the park in the area, also
property lines or something like that.
Oh, okay.
experience the same property line issues.
Yeah, it isn't just unique to this.
So there's gotta be some history there, right? Or it's gotta be.
And then we talked about on number 4, that it was an after the fact.
Well, how about, okay, 3, will not alter the essential character, so we're basically saying it's
Yeah.
consistent
That
with
was-
residential use?
Right.
Okay, all right. And then, okay, go ahead, 4.
And then for number 4, we talked about that it was an after effect, or you called it an after the fact.
Well, that's what it
variance.
is. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's the rationale for it, but
Yeah.
not a leading.
That's a slippery slope there.
I mean, the minimum variance, I suppose, it is 3 feet instead of 5 feet. I mean, the setback's 5, it encroaches by 3, that's the minimum that they're asking for.
Sure. I think could basically state that the fact you can't get around the building is already there.
Right. Unless indeed it is currently touching the lot line, then it's a 5 foot, then it's, I don't know. It's hard to know what's accurate.
Did anybody verify for sure where the lot lines are now? I mean, it got surveyed, right?
The city has surveyed. I can't tell you if they're right there on the white line or not, though.
Did you get to see this?
No, I didn't see it. Brian and Mike saw it.
And then 5, not materially detrimental to the purpose of the ordinance or to the property in the same zone.
So that one was okay.
Yeah, I guess the fact that we got the primary, let's see, no objections from neighbors and primary potentially affected party is the city or the park, and no planned development.
This picture on the back, it shows a proposed fence. Is he planning to put a fence along that back property line? Is that what that suggests?
I believe, well, I can't tell you if it's but he has the ability to put a fence up to his property line.
Yeah. That would alleviate some of the
Post fence,
potential impacts of having it
Yeah,
too close to the park property.
but that, yeah, as long as he stays on his property.
Well, yeah.
And now he knows where that property line is because he's been informed by the city because of the survey. But that's not a part of the variance.
No. It's an observation.
I mean, I get it. There's all sorts of parts, especially older parts of town where people don't know where their lines are. And they're not gonna go out and spend $1,000 to get a surveyor to tell them where the corners are. So you just kind of go where the neighbor's been mowing and go with it. And you might be off. So even on this property, I get it, but burden is on the property owner, that's for sure. Well, you think we've made enough findings to support it then, or?
I believe so. Do you want to read all that before we decide? What do you want to do?
Sure.
Are
Kurt, you gotta go.
corrections or additions?
I do. I do gotta go, but I can, yeah. 5 more minutes. I can get out of here.
Well, practical difficulties are basically the next, are number 2 and 3, at least according to the state statute.
Mhm.
So number 2, plight of landowners due to circumstances unique to the property not created by the landowner. Well, there was some miscommunication with City Hall and other adjacent property owners were sort of in the same predicament as far as creeping in on parkland. Number 3, the variance if granted would not alter essential character of the locality. It's consistent with residential use. Number 4, variance request is a minimum variance, which will alleviate the practical difficulty. The shed's already there. It's an after the fact variance. 3-foot encroachment into the setback is the minimum. It's not going to be any more or less. And number 5, wouldn't be material detrimental to the purpose of the ordinance or property in the same zone. Again, it's consistent with the overall residential nature of the neighborhood. No objections from the neighbors. Primary affected property owner is the city with its park, and they don't have any plans of development in the area in the future. Maybe that's sufficient to support number 5. That's enough.
The motion would be with those clarifications that you have.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
And then can we have a roll call vote on that? A
We can.
roll call vote?
Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, roll call. I'll call it out by last name. Booker.
Aye.
Weenus.
Aye.
Steger. Aye. Jetson.
Aye.
Bullseye. Rockne, aye. Boyd is gone, so carries 6-0-0. So we'll bring that to council and see how they feel about it. One council member questioned practical difficulties on one of our last variances we allowed on,
Who's on that one that has the 2?
up on
He
20th.
owns both, yeah.
Yeah, owning both lots, so it's not always a rubber stamp.
So this will go to the first meeting in March.
All right.
Because I think there's a meeting this Thursday. There's already an agenda.
Very good. I don't see anything else on the agenda, so meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thanks.